So let's say you've been injured in an accident and you're not at fault, and the insurance company makes you an offer and you don't have a lawyer. And the question is, should you get a lawyer or can you do this yourself? Can you negotiate yourself? Well, maybe you should try negotiating yourself and just see where you land. It depends on how injured you are in terms of could you get the maximum recovery, but it's worth a shot. And here are some tips to do that. The first thing you need to know is how injured are you? And I say that because one simple metric of that is what are your medical bills, right? And often people, when they think about what are my medical bills, they'll think about the bill that they got from the provider. And if you have health insurance, that bill is going to be negotiated down by your insurance, and you'll be sent some bill that you have to pay. And that's what people tend to think of when they think, what are my medical bills? Like, what did I have to pay? What am I out of pocket? But here's a little secret. Those aren't the medical bills. The medical bills are the ones that were charged by the provider at the top level. And then before your insurance company came in and negotiated, contractually negotiated a discount, and then you were sent a bill for your portion of that discounted bill. You want the undiscounted number that the provider charged before your health insurance stepped in. That's the number you need to send to the insurance company. And if you hire a lawyer, that's one of the things they're going to do, right? They're going to get a medical authorization from you, and they're going to go get these bills, and they're going to total them all up. And that's going to paint the picture of what your bills really are. The next thing you need to know is this. Insurance companies have employed software to try to normalize and standardize all the offers they make and all the claims that they have. There's a really good book called Noise by an author named Daniel Kahneman. Talks about how insurance adjusters are notorious for being very noisy. And one insurance adjuster might make a really high offer and another one might make a really low offer. And there's wide variation in that. So to try to fix this problem, the insurance companies have implemented software. And what you need to know is that the software is really what's going to determine the offer that you get. It's not the insurance adjuster just coming up with this on their own. They're sort of told what to do by computer programs. And I bet with the advent of artificial intelligence, this problem is only going to get worse. So you need to know how to maximize your recovery in that software. So what does that mean? One thing you need to look for in your medical bills, okay, are the codes, the ICD codes, which are billing codes for all of your diagnoses. So, for example, sprained knee or fractured elbow. Each of those has a billing code. So when you get your medical records, you need to go through and look for all the little codes, billing codes in your records, and you need to provide those to the insurance company. So now we've got undiscounted medical bills and all the little codes for all of your various injuries. You need to put that in front of them. Third thing is going to be any photographs or documentation of your injuries to talk about how bad this really is. That's going to help a lot. One thing also to note is let's just back up and talk about the accident that you were in, right? So if you were rear-ended, did you go to the emergency room? Could you drive there? Could you walk there? Were you taken in an ambulance? Did you go the next day? So right there, we have a hierarchy, right? If you were taken by ambulance, like that's going to be probably the most value. If you went to the urgent care that day, that's still pretty good. If you went to the urgent care the next day, the day after, that's not as good because it shows maybe you weren't that hurt, but that's not uncommon that people realize the day after that they're sore or have all this pain that takes a while to show up. And then if you didn't get any treatment at all, that's where your claim's probably going to be worth the least. But there's kind of a hierarchy there in terms of how did you leave the accident. So if you did leave the accident in an ambulance, you really need to emphasize that as well. The next thing is lost wages. Did this cause you to miss work? Are you an hourly employee? Can you get a letter from your boss? Can you document that you were unable to work? Get a letter from your doctor? And then think about what, in terms of quantifying that, how much money you make in a day and say, I missed this many days. And so I make this in a year. This is what I missed those days that I was out of work. And you can come up with a total of lost wages that way. So ideally you would put all this information together in a letter, a demand letter, and send it to the adjuster. And it would be presented in a nice package with all the records. That's what an attorney is going to do for you if you hire them. Now, the thing to remember is typically when you hire an attorney, the amount of the offer immediately increases. Why is that? It's because there's a credible threat now that this insurance company is going to have to pay their own lawyers to go to court and defend this claim. And so it's all about trying to dissuade you, the plaintiff, from doing that, from filing suit. They're trying to make it an offer that's just good enough to where you might take it and avoid their having to pay a defense, especially if liability is clear. So these are my tips, right? If you want to be your own advocate, you can try this. You can try to get the undiscounted bills. You can try to beef up all of your lost earnings or lost wages, time away from work, get a letter from your boss, get a letter from your job, and look into your medical records, find all the billing codes, take pictures, and be your own advocate and see how you do. My guess is for smaller claims, this might make a lot of sense, and you may not want to hire a lawyer because they may take more. But for more substantial claims, especially if you have pain and suffering damages that are maybe unusual, I just settled a case, for example, where a woman had a terrible accident. It was on her birthday, and her daughter had flown in to be there that night of the accident. So that's, traumatizing situation. This was her birthday, right? It ruined her birthday and ruined this whole event. So if you want to make those types of arguments, they are probably going to be more powerful coming from a lawyer because the insurance company is now thinking about how a jury might react to the lawyer's presentation of that kind of pain and suffering claim. But in some cases, I think it makes perfect sense for people to try to negotiate this. And here's my last tip. Let's say you do all this and you get an offer and it's still low and you think, I should be able to get more for this. I'm going to go now hire a lawyer. Well, you've already done a lot of work and you've gotten an offer. And what you can do is say, hey, lawyer, how are you going to add more to this to make it worth my time to hire you? And what you might be able to do is negotiate an arrangement with that lawyer where their fee is only on any dollars recovered above the offer that you got. So how might that work? Let's say you get an offer of $10,000 and you say, no, my case is worth at least $30,000. Well, you can go to a lawyer and say, listen, I've gotten an offer for $10,000. I want to hire you, but what's your value add? I don't want you to get any fee until any dollar above $10,000. So after $10,000, that's when the lawyer can start to calculate his or her fee, basically on the difference above $10,000. So if they get an offer of $30,000, they're only taking a fee on $20,000. See if they'll take that deal. They might. And then, you get to keep more money, and this work that you've put in accrues to your benefit, not the lawyer's. So hope that's been helpful. Some, tips on how to be your own advocate and deal with insurance companies. It is a lot of work. It's not for everyone, which is why it's, 90% of cases, you're better off just calling a lawyer up front. But for the people who, watch YouTube to learn how to do things and want to try to do things themselves, I hope this video helps. Thanks for watching.